the most fascinating ways that I've learned how to use trusts is what we're going to talk about right now. And that is how to joint venture partner with people, protect the property, and ensure that you stay in control of the project. I think that these are requirements for every investor, whether you're a very active investor like me, or probably maybe even more specifically because you're a passive investor. And let me jump into a few reasons I think that this is a really important tool. Number one, people come to you and they say, "Hey, Roger," they come to me. People come to me and they say, "Hey, Roger, I'd like to invest and borrow money from you and pay you, a hard money loan." And I say, no, I don't loan money anymore. What I do is I create joint venture partnerships, and I'll put up a large portion of the cash to do the deal. But I'm going to structure it so that the property is owned by a trust, and that my LLC is the trustee and my LLC is the beneficiary. At that point, I'm going to assign the beneficial interest to the joint venture partner in exchange for a promissory note and a chattel mortgage. So I'll explain what those two things are. The promissory note is the promise to pay for that beneficial interest, not for the house, for the beneficial interest. And if they default, they lose their beneficial interest. What the chattel mortgage is that is the security instrument that pledged that promissory note, that beneficial interest, back to me if they defaulted. So that's the mechanism. If they default, they don't finish the project, or they don't spend the money the right way, or it takes forever and ever and ever to get it done, or a whole host of reasons of default, then I get to take the beneficial interest back, because the chattel mortgage describes it as personal property, which is the piece of paper that is secured, not the house, not the building, not the real estate. It's simply the piece of paper that says, I pledge the beneficial interest back to Roger's beneficiary, his LLC, that we entered into the agreement with. So I don't have to foreclose on a property. I basically have to evict on the beneficial interest, which is a much faster, easier, cleaner process, and it's safer for everybody involved to have the property in a trust. And what do I mean by it's safer for everybody? Well, if there's a problem with the joint venture partner, your partner on this, then, and let's say they get a judgment against them, normally that would automatically attach to a house that they own. But because the trust owns it, this doesn't occur, which is critically important. Similarly, if I have a judgment that's put on me in 6 months and it gets attached to the house that I've partnered with somebody on, then I could lose their whole interest in the project, and then they've worked for 6 months or a year or 2 years without seeing any benefit because this judgment is now attached and I've got to figure out some other way. So it avoids all of that. In addition to that, if something happens at the house, then the property is, if you will, insured, but it's also protected because the trust owns it, not me, not my joint venture partner. And the beauty of that is that, let's say there's a problem and the trust goes through a lawsuit and gets a judgment against it, it doesn't attach to me and it doesn't attach to my joint venture partner. So all three parties here are really well protected. But we're talking about the actual process of somebody wanting to loan you the money, and you don't want to loan them money because you're technically not a lender. And some states are funky and they have problems with people lending money in private mortgage situations. And so we're going to avoid that. We're going to avoid those judgment issues that I just spoke about. And we're going to avoid the foreclosure aspect of partnering with somebody that can't or won't finish the project as the agreement stipulates. And I know that some of those seem very far-fetched, but I'll give you a reason why I think that it's I'll give you a reason that I think it is completely important, critical, in fact, to structure these projects this way. And that is, back in 2011, I got into a project and I borrowed money from my investors at that time. And this gentleman borrowed the money for the house in a first position lien. It was a great low loan to value. And I came into a situation where he was what we call a professional borrower. And I didn't want to partner with this guy anymore. And the only way to get him out was to give him a chunk of cash, even though we were 2.5 years into it. And I knew that he knew the foreclosure process way better than I did. Way better. And he also knew that the bankruptcy process would be a way to tie this property up and to really make it difficult for me over the course of the next 2 to 3 years in bankruptcy court, because his LLC was the owner of the house. And it wasn't going to affect him personally. It was just going to tie me up. And where that tied me up was I'd borrowed money from my investors to get this project going. So it's one of those instances where it became the reason I restructured how I do things. And I think that most people, once they go through the process of losing 100 or 150,000 on a project like I did on that one, they say, you know what, I'm never going to do that again. I have to do it differently. And when they structure it and one way, learn the heartache, and then go through it differently, I think that provides them the basis for wanting to do things new in a new manner. And that's really what's fascinating to me, is how well do you adapt to those changes, not only in the market, but also in the ability to change your business process. Because you've done it right 100% of the time until something goes wrong. And once that time happens, you should learn, and you should learn from that mistake. Even though you were promised that the guy was a good guy, you were promised that he was going to honor the agreement, you were promised that he could do it in a matter of months and not years, you were promised that he would do the high quality renovation that you guys agreed to. You've hired a project manager. You've done all of these things, and yet none of them worked for you. Those are the moments where you step back and you say, I'm going to restructure it. I'm going to do it differently because I'm in this business for the long haul. So that's what happened to me. My question then for you is, do you need to go through that and lose 150,000 or even just 20,000? Or do you have to lose $500,000 because you chose that you didn't want to listen to me today, right now? I don't know. That's up to you. But I would urge you to really consider this process. And let me recap it for you. Somebody comes to you, they want to joint venture partner with you. Sorry, let me recap it for you. Somebody wants to borrow money and you say, no, but I'll joint venture partner with you. And you say, I'm going to put the property into a trust, and I'm going to be the trustee, and I'm going to be the beneficiary. I'm going to assign you the beneficial interest in the trust in exchange for a promissory note, pledge of beneficial interest, with a chattel mortgage and a joint venture agreement, and a few other documents that I can explain to you if you have any further questions. And that way you protect yourself, you protect the joint venture partner, and most importantly, you protect the house. You stay in control of the project, and you alleviate the need for foreclosure, and you alleviate the possibility of judgments for you and it affecting how much money you lose or make. I hope this was helpful. I really think that this is basically one of my favorite ways of using trusts. And if you have any questions, please just go ahead and write the questions down. I'm going to answer everything I can, and have a really great day.